Mass shootings over the Easter weekend leaves dozens injured.
Didn't know who was shooting, what direction it was coming from, and it was really terrifying.
And in sports, Ohio softball continues to climb in the Mid-American Conference standings. Newswatch starts right now. Good evening, I'm Andre Norrells.
And I'm Joe Collins. Welcome to Newswatch, your source for news impacting southeastern Ohio.
After being diagnosed with COVID-19 on Friday, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine shares his wife, Fran DeWine, has been diagnosed with COVID-19. Both DeWines are experiencing mild symptoms and are receiving monoclonal antibody treatment, a treatment which clones a unique white blood cell. The couple is continuing their quarantine at their home. They both have been fully vaccinated and have received their booster shots. 3 inmates are back in custody after attacking a guard, stealing his keys and escaping through the Muskingum County Courthouse. All 3 were found this morning. 2 were captured after they crashed a stolen truck just south of Zanesville. Muskingum County Sheriff Matt Lutz says inmate Roy Agan, Cole Taylor, and Aaron Vignon were being held on the jail's 3rd floor when one of them attacked the guard, and the other 2 helped overpower him around midnight on Sunday, Lutz says. The 3 then went into the adjacent courtroom and escaped through the doors, the sheriff says. According to Muskingum County Sheriff's Office Facebook page, the inmates were able to be apprehended because of tips the community had sent in during the manhunt.
The Southeast Ohio Food Bank is hosting a mobile food distribution at the Perry County Fairgrounds Friday from 12:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Fresh produce and other food items will be given to families who are residents of Perry County and under 200% of the federal poverty guidelines. Photo identification and proof of residency no more than 60 days old is required. Pre-registration is required for this event. Visit freshtrack.com to enter your Perry County zip code. For more information, contact the Southeast Ohio Food Bank, a program of Hawking Athens Perry Community Action.
West Virginia residents have until the end of business day tomorrow to register to vote or update their registration to be eligible to vote in the May 10th primary. Secretary of State Matt Warner's office says it is especially important for voters who have moved to a different address, changed their name, or want to change political parties to update their registration. Registration can be completed online at govotewv.com by the end of the business day tomorrow, or by mailing a paper application to the county clerk, which must be postmarked by Tuesday, or in person at the offices of the county clerk, Secretary of State, Division of Motor Vehicles, public assistance agencies serving people with disabilities, and military agencies.
For most Americans, Monday, April 18th is the deadline to file federal income taxes. It's 3 days later than the usual April 15th deadline for filing taxes. Easter Monday is not a federal holiday, so it's important to have your return postmarked before midnight. The IRS is urging Americans to file their returns electronically because it is currently taking up to 6 months to process a paper return. Monday's deadline is not for everybody. Taxpayers who live in Maine or Massachusetts have until April 19th to file because their states celebrate Patriots Day. The IRS has also extended the deadline until May 16th for victims of the Colorado wildfires, as well as tornado victims in Illinois, Kentucky, and Tennessee. This year's return will be a little more complicated than usual for those trying to meet the deadline. That's because of the need to factor in the child tax credit, the 3rd stimulus check, and new rules about reporting income from cryptocurrency. And now we're going to throw it over to Cole with a look at first weather.
Thanks, Joe. I'm forecaster Cole Patterson. And let's take a look at the radar earlier today. As you can see, we had a lot of rain and even mixed precipitation up to the north throughout the day, making for a lot of wet conditions and just an overall nasty day. And although it's cleared up right now, there's still a chance for lingering rain in the evening hours tonight, but thankfully the bulk of the rain has passed. As we can see right now, a little bit more current zoomed in regional map right here. You can see a lot more rain down here is moving into the West Virginia region. So over in Athens and all of that, it's pretty much done for the night. There's, like I said, still a little bit of lingering rain that could still happen. However, the bulk of the rain has moved out of the Athens region and into the West Virginia region, as you see on the radar. We hit a temperature of 40 degrees today. It was overcast all day, rainy conditions, as everyone was pretty much able to see. But tonight, those temperatures are going to continue to drop to make for a little bit of a cooler evening than usual. However, we will have a lot more warmer temperatures coming up in the week. I'll have more about that in my full forecast, but for now, back to the desk.
I look forward to those warm temperatures. Janssen Pharmaceuticals reached a $99 million settlement for the company's alleged role in West Virginia's opioid crisis. The state's attorney general claimed the pharmaceutical giant and its parent company, Johnson & Johnson, persuaded doctors to prescribe opioids more frequently, saying that they were safe and more effective than other drugs. Attorneys say this helped spike opioid use for chronic pain issues, eventually leading to a rise in fatal overdoses. This settlement is subject to approval from the state's political subdivision, and cities and counties will get a lump sum payment. Johnson & Johnson settled with the state of New York last year for $230 million for a similar situation.
With the rise of COVID tests being available to many, scientists worry underreporting could lead to inaccurate information about coronavirus trends.
And areas across the country are taking different measures in handling mask requirements of COVID-19 cases as the COVID-19 cases begin to lower. These stories and more when Newswatch returns.
An icon. You look at a picture, are you in or are you out?
He opened a gallon tin of paint and hurled it across the room.
If I was 16 years old, I'd have to go see what kind of band that was.
You're like, what's going on here?
Both of those cats dying in a 12-month period is really profound impact on the culture.
How could anybody not put David Bowie on the cover in that moment?
Saturday at 9 on WOUB.
The Adirondack Park Agency was a wild idea when it was created 50 years ago.
In the story of land use planning in the United States, the Adirondack Park Agency is truly significant.
But a lot of people who live inside the park still think the agency and its restrictions on private land development are un-American. It all comes down to a basic question. What is wild land worth?
Thursday at 9 on WOUB.
Overwhelming. It's very overwhelming, but I'm very proud.
On Finding Your Roots, Amy Carlson.
To come here with nothing, it's amazing.
Andre Leon Talley.
Never heard any of this, never saw any of this.
And Erin Burnett.
It's opened up a whole new part of me.
From Ireland to World War I to the supernatural.
Do you descend from a witch?
I am afraid to guess.
Tuesday at 8 on WOUB.
Next time on Antiques Roadshow, there's nothing more natural than enjoying treasures connected to the great outdoors.
It's a piece of cinnabar lacquer. Each layer was applied in 100 coats. 100 coats?
Hawaiian paintings are rare. And I don't mean to make a pun, but they're kind of hot right now.
Don't miss this special episode. Antiques Roadshow, Natural Wonders.
Monday at 8 on WOUB.
Welcome back. It's a lot easier these days to get at-home COVID-19 tests.
But many of those test results are not being reported, leading to a drastic undercount of cases. The Institute of Health, Metrics and Evaluation estimates only 7% of positive COVID-19 cases in the U.S. are now being detected. That would mean case rates are actually more than 14 times higher than officially reported. While cases have been undercounted throughout the pandemic, some states, including Ohio and New York, no longer use positivity rates in the fight against COVID. The CDC is also now emphasizing hospitalization rates over case counts. To get more reliable counts of COVID-19 cases, the National Institutes of Health is now working with laboratories to help streamline easier ways to report test results.
The White House celebrates Easter with the first egg roll since 2019, which is seemingly a sign of freedom from COVID-19 restrictions. But Philadelphians are seeing other signs today. Some of those signs indicate people should still be wearing masks when visiting indoor public spaces. Amy Kiley reports Philly isn't the only place still cautious about COVID.
I support the mask mandate, if it's going to save lives.
Today, Philadelphia becomes the first major U.S. city to reinstate its mask requirement for indoor public spaces. That's despite a lawsuit filed Saturday by a group of business owners and residents who are trying to stop it.
When you go to a funeral, you see that people's hair, makeup is done. That is a stylist that does it. They are licensed cosmetologists, and one of the girls is actually considering doing that because she can't deal with the anxiety of dealing with customers yelling at us all the time.
The suit argues the city should base its rules on the same community COVID-19 level guidelines the CDC uses. Those are low in Philadelphia. Instead, the city has its own metrics for mask requirements.
You know, local officials do have a lot of local knowledge of where is it spreading, in which communities. They're using other types of data. So I have been really supportive of local local leaders making local decisions.
Today is also when the federal transportation mask mandate had been set to expire. Instead, the government is extending it until May 3rd. In New York, Broadway theaters say they're extending their mask requirements through at least next month. But in Washington, the White House is relaxing a bit today. It's hosting the first Easter egg roll since the pandemic began and saying this about vaccine mandates.
We are in a different position now, obviously, and so we really have to ask ourselves, what is the role of mandates moving forward?
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
A Trump-appointed federal judge has struck down the White House's mask mandate for airplanes and other public transportation. The U.S. District Judge in Florida ruled Monday the mandate is unlawful and exceeded the authority of the U.S. Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. The policy required passengers on airplanes, trains, and other public transportation to wear a face covering. Last week, the CDC extended it through May 3rd. Officials pointed out to the recent rise in COVID-19 cases in the U.S. The Department of Justice has not said if it will try to appeal the ruling. And information about COVID-19 in your area, visit coronavirus.ohio.gov or call 1-833-427-5634. Again, that is 1-833-427-5634.
During the holiday weekend, the country saw surges in gun violence. That story's still ahead.
And we saw lots of rain earlier today, but thankfully most of that is moving out of the region. I'll have more about what to expect this week in my full weather forecast just ahead. But for now, here's a look at stocks of local interest.
You look at a picture, are you in or are you out?
He opened a gallon tin of paint and hurled it across the room.
If I was 16 years old, I'd have to go see what kind of band that was.
You're like, what's going on here?
Both of those cats dying in a 12-month period is really profound impact on the culture.
How could anybody not put David Bowie on the cover in that moment?
Saturday at 9 on WOUB.
Overwhelming. It's very overwhelming, but I'm very proud.
On Finding Your Roots, Amy Carlson.
To come here with nothing, it's amazing.
Andre Leon Talley.
Never heard any of this. Never saw any of this.
And Erin Burnett.
It's opened up a whole new part of me.
From Ireland to World War I to the supernatural.
Do you descend from a witch?
I am afraid to guess.
Tuesday at 8 on WOUB.
Rising temperatures are setting in motion Earth's own natural warming mechanisms that then feed upon themselves.
Most people haven't even heard of feedback loops or tipping points.
Climate policy really should be designed to avoid setting off these important feedbacks.
We have the technology and knowledge. What we need is the will.
I'm not worried about the planet, I'm worried about us.
Wednesday at 10 on WOUB.
The Adirondack Park Agency was a wild idea when it was created 50 years ago.
In the story of land use planning in the United States, the Adirondack Park Agency is truly significant.
But a lot of people who live inside the park still think the agency and its restrictions on private land development are un-American. It all comes down to a basic question. What is wild land worth?
Thursday at 9 on WOUB.
Welcome back. I'm forecaster Cole Patterson. As we saw lots of rain earlier today, thankfully it is moving mostly out of the Athens region and into the West Virginia region. So although we had a lot of nasty conditions earlier today, most of that is thankfully over as we get into the evening hours tonight. Although there's still a chance of lingering rain, like I said, most of the heavy rain and downpour has left the region for tonight. We had a lot of mixed precipitation even to the north of Columbus up in the Cleveland area and stuff. They saw a bit of snowfall and mixed precipitation and all of that too. Thankfully that avoided us down in Athens and West Virginia and all of our area. But like I said, up to the north, they had to deal with some mixed precipitation conditions. So thankfully we got to avoid that. Earlier today, we had a high of 46 degrees, and tonight we're going to be seeing a low of 32 degrees. Although the rain is mostly out of the region, we are going to be dealing with overcast conditions throughout the night. And looking at tonight's temperature, 31 is what we're going to get down to. It is going to be, we're going to have some moon up there too, but mostly cloudy, like I said, until we get into the late hours where it then develops into clearer conditions. So cloudy to start off the night, but throughout the night, it will eventually turn into those clearer conditions. And looking at tomorrow, we have a lot of rain all the way out to the west over towards Kansas City and all of that. However, that rain will be coming over to our region later. Thankfully, we'll get to avoid that for a little bit, but we can't avoid it forever as it makes its way over to southeast Ohio and West Virginia in the coming days. Looking at tomorrow's temperature, we're actually going to have mostly sunny conditions. So like I said, we get to avoid the rain for now, but it will make its way over. However, for tomorrow, be sure to take advantage of some clearer conditions. A high of 54, so pretty comfortable, not too hot, not too cold. However, we will have a low of 37, and that will require you to bundle up a little bit. Taking a look at tomorrow night, that is when a lot of the rain is going to get into our region. As you can see down in Charleston, we have those low pressure systems moving up into the region. That's going to bring those wetter conditions. And with that low of 37 tomorrow night, that could bring the possibility of some mixed precipitation too. So be sure to exercise caution when out on the roads by keeping that in mind because it is a very good possibility. And then expanding out to our 3-day, we have 54 degrees is going to be our Sunday, Sunday. This is our weekend that we're looking at right now. Monday is going to be 51. That's where we're going to have the rain. And then 52 is going to be our high on Tuesday with the partly cloudy conditions and a low of 29, so very cold then. And then expanding all the way out to our 7-day outlook, we will reach temperatures of 83 on Saturday, 83 on Sunday, and 81 on Monday, all with partly cloudy conditions. So if we can get through the rain and the snow for now, we're going to have a lot more pleasant weekends. So although these conditions are not ideal for this time of year, as we make ourselves into the weekend, we are going to have a lot more pleasant conditions. That's all for my weather report. Now, back to the desk.
Thanks, Cole. A manhunt is underway right now for multiple suspected shooters who killed 2 teens and injured several others at a Pittsburgh house party. It's just one in a wave of gun violence incidents that spoiled the holiday weekend for many across the country. Chris Wynn reports.
In Pittsburgh early Sunday morning, a mass shooting breaking out at a large party held at an Airbnb.
It's heartbreaking. I mean, here we are Easter, and we have multiple families, 2 that won't see a loved one.
2 people under the age of 18 are dead, 8 others wounded by gunfire. Police say as many as 200 people were at the party, many of them underage.
How can you even have a holiday when your child was involved in something traumatic like this?
More than 90 rounds from multiple guns were fired inside and outside of the home, according to the police chief.
This goes back to having too many guns, too many illegal guns on the streets.
In Columbia, South Carolina, one man is now in custody after a mass shooting at a mall on Saturday.
We didn't know who was shooting, what direction it was coming from, and it was really terrifying.
14 people were injured, at least 9 of whom were shot. 5 others hurt while attempting to flee from the chaos. To the south of Columbia in Hampton County, 9 people were shot early Sunday morning at a nightclub. The investigation being led by the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. And in Boston, 2 people are in critical condition after a shooting early Sunday in the Chinatown neighborhood. Boston police say 3 suspects were taken into custody after the vehicle they were fleeing in crashed. The investigation into that shooting is ongoing. I'm Cole Higgins reporting.
Now, short-term rental giant Airbnb says they have reached out to the Pittsburgh Police Department and the mayor's office since the deadly shooting. The person who booked the residence in Pittsburgh has been banned from the platform for life, Airbnb says in a statement to CNN. The company also notes parties who are not allowed as part of their rental agreement, and the platform is considering all legal options against the person who booked the rental.
An emboldened act of defiance as surviving Ukrainians in Mariupol reject Russian demands to surrender or die. Meantime, a barrage of Russian missiles hit Lviv, near NATO territories where thousands of families thought they'd escaped the worst of the war. Mike Valerio has the latest on civilians as they make the horrific choice to flee or fight.
Smoke billows from Lviv, once thought as a refuge where thousands of families fled from Russian atrocities. Now, the western Ukrainian city near Poland grieves its first reported fatalities of the war. 4 missile strikes hit Lviv, killing at least 7 people. The blast wave shattered windows in a hotel where internally displaced Ukrainians were staying. The fighting is also intensifying in the east, where Tamara shelters with her grandson in Severodonetsk.
A lot of people can't leave this place because of problems with health, and they don't have enough money.
Ukrainian forces in Mariupol rejected a weekend ultimatum from Russia to, quote, surrender or die. Ukrainian troops are now surrounded within a massive steel plant, the last known pocket of resistance in the key port city.
The situation is very difficult in Mariupol. It's clear that things won't get better.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky tells CNN's Jake Tapper Russian forces took thousands of children from Mariupol, and it's unclear where they are now.
About 5,000 children deported from this region to Russian side because they didn't allow them to go to the Ukrainian side, I mean the Ukrainian control side. Yet that's it, so we don't know what is with that children. Where are they?
He adds Ukraine won't give up any territory in the east as a new Russian offensive is expected there in the coming days. I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
President Zelensky says today Russia has launched a new offensive in the eastern Donbass region. The new offensive comes as no surprise to Ukrainian forces. Intelligence given to Ukrainian officials showed Russian forces gathering around the eastern part of the country, a warning sign that Russia was preparing to attack. Zelensky says although Russia has amassed a large number of troops, quote, Ukrainians will be fighting. Current United Nations estimates put the death toll of the conflict at 13,000.
Coming up in sports, Ohio softball sits in second place in the Mid-American Conference standings. That story is right after the break. And be sure to stay tuned to WOUB. Here's a look at what's coming up tonight on your public television station.
On Icon. You look at a picture, are you in or are you out?
He opened a gallon tin of paint and hurled it across the room.
If I was 16 years old, I'd have to go see what kind of band that was.
You're like, what's going on here?
Both of those cats dying in a 12-month period is really profound impact on the culture.
How could anybody not put David Bowie on the cover in that moment?
Saturday at 9 on WOUB.
Here's what's new this month with Passport.
I'm a really good detective. I always get to the truth. Let's see how this plays out.
Shaped by land, but sustained by their connection to us. These are American horses.
What's happening in the Arctic could really affect everyone.
It is literally sinking.
These and all your favorite shows are available with Passport on the PBS app. Download it today.
Overwhelming. It's very overwhelming, but I'm very proud.
On Finding Your Roots, Amy Carlson,
To come here with nothing, it's amazing.
Andre Leon Talley,
Never heard any of this. Never saw any of this.
and Erin Burnett.
It's opened up a whole new part of me.
From Ireland to World War I to the supernatural.
Do you descend from a witch?
I am afraid to guess.
Tuesday at 8 on WOUB.
Next time on Antiques Roadshow, there's nothing more natural than enjoying treasures connected to the great outdoors.
It's a piece of cinnabar lacquer. Each layer was applied in 100 coats. 100 coats?
Hawaiian paintings are rare, and I don't mean to make a pun, but they're kind of hot right now.
Don't miss this special episode. Antiques Roadshow, Natural Wonders.
Monday at 8 on WOUB.
Ohio softball continues to sit at top in the Mid-American Conference standings. Ohio sits in second place with an 11-6 record in MAC play. Right above them is Miami at 15-2. The Redhawks' only 2 losses in MAC play are to the Bobcats, who took the series against them 2-1 earlier this season. Ohio is reaching for the first place spot with just a few weeks left until the tournament. The second place spot for the Bobcats didn't come without a fight. In the first game of its doubleheader Saturday, a home run from Megan McMenemy cut the deficit for the Bobcats, but they weren't able to complete a comeback in their 5-2 loss. It may have looked like the Bobcats were going to drop the second game, but dug in its heels. The Bobcats were up 5-1 heading into the 6th inning, but Central Michigan rallied for 5 runs to take the 6-5 lead in the 7th. The Bobcats didn't let that stop them as Caitlin Folks stepped up to the plate and hit a home run to help secure the 8-6 victory. Head coach Kenzie Rourke says Folks' home run came at a perfect time.
She hit the ball hard all day, just right at people, and so we told her just to keep swinging it, and eventually it was going to fall. That's what we've been doing. They're not gonna lay down for anybody, and they believe that they can, and they've proven that they're capable of doing that.
The Bobcats are back in action this weekend with a series at Kent State. Ohio baseball's series win over the weekend puts it back in the thick of things in the MAC tournament race. The Bobcats find themselves in a tie for the 4th spot with Eastern Michigan. Keep in mind that only the top 4 teams make it to the tournament. Central Michigan controls the top of the MAC, winning its last 13 games, including a series sweep of Ohio 2 weeks back. The Bobcats' climb has been fueled by offense, and that was especially true this weekend when they took 3 of 4 games from Eastern Michigan. Ohio scored a combined 26 runs in its twin bill sweep of the Eagles Saturday. Cale Baker led the way for OU in Game 1 with 3 RBIs. The Bobcats took that one 14-2. Mason Minzy was superb for Ohio in the second game, going 6 for 6 with 4 RBIs. The Bobcats took the slugfest over the Eagles 14-8. But Ohio's bats were humbled in the series finale Sunday, held to just 1 run on 2 hits. Brendan Roeder took the 2-1 loss despite 6 strong innings on the mound. Ohio travels to Morehead State tomorrow for a non-conference game. Ohio football spring camp is over after its final scrimmage Saturday. The Bobcats may have a standout quarterback heading into summer conditioning. Curtis Rourke had a solid performance in the 60-play scrimmage. He threw for 2 touchdowns while completing 10 passes. Rourke played in 10 games last season for the Bobcats, throwing for over 1,800 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. I'm Maria Manessi, and that's it for sports. Back to you, Andre.
Thanks, Maria. A Polish pride is in full display in Buffalo, New York. It's Dingus Day. The celebration marking the end of Lent always falls on the Monday after Easter. Tens of thousands of people flock to the historic Polonia district in Buffalo to commemorate the start of spring. It's the 16th year for the event. It started back in 2007 with 500 people and now has become a tradition for many. Some years even had turnouts of 70,000. People dress in red and white, eat pierogies, and dance to polka music. After a trimmed-down event in 2021, this year is a full-scale party. Looks like a lot of fun. Now to Cole with a look at your final weather.
Earlier today, we had some rainy conditions and lots of clouds in the sky. However, tonight is going to become much more clear as we reach a low of 31 degrees and get clearer skies later in the night after those clouds move out of the region in the late hours of today. Taking a look at our day tomorrow, although we do have a 20% chance of snow, it is going to be a high of 48, so overall not super cold. And as we move into the weekend, we are going to reach temperatures of the low 80s with partly cloudy skies. So with those nice temperatures, what are your plans for the weekend?
Well, we're going to have lots of fun, but that does it for our broadcast this evening. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.
Support comes from Goldsberry Wealth Strategies in Athens and Parkersburg, focusing on helping people achieve a life well lived with a custom strategy. Information at goldsberrywealth.com. Raymond James Financial Services Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Support comes from Hocking Valley Bank, offering mortgage loans